Hope that sound is coming through. Just switched it on. Yeah, welcome to the live. I was just having a chat earlier about, certain life events. Hang on. Yeah, certain life events, and I had to remind someone that nothing's permanent. Seems obvious, doesn't it? But it feels like the kind of idea that nothing's permanent is like a lesson that we all must go through, and it's almost like a lesson in breaking naivety that everyone must go through. And usually you go through that painfully when you're younger, because some people don't always go through it. We all get attached to things, don't we? It's part of human emotion, and the attachment is built into us, I guess. The way we react emotionally is kind of inbuilt. Part of the human condition. We get attached to things that are safe, so things that we think are safe, whether that is a way of life, relationships, particular jobs, financial situations. We can all get attached to certain ways of life, which represents safety to us, what feels safe. And you could, this is all about the whole attachment system that we develop from childhood. But we've got to break it at some point, or we get taught a very, very big and hard lesson when we lose things that we love so much, and just to remind ourselves that nothing's ever permanent, even if you're having an absolutely shit, horrendous day, the good thing is that one day that will end, and you'll then have a good day maybe. Or if you're having a very good day, maybe one day that'll end and you'll end up with a bad day. So even if you've had a good, a run of good luck, you could be doing everything right constantly, day after day. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you just get an absolutely terrible, horrendous day that just smacks you in the face. Hi, welcome to live. Yeah, it is a good topic. It just hits you right in the face. You think, what? Where did that come from? Just reminding yourself that nothing's ever permanent. You could be doing everything right in this world, and someone can just like absolutely stab you in the back out of nowhere. And, you got to learn to accept it. So what should we do about it? Well, I always think practicing detachment. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the live. Practicing detachment. I don't know if you ever watched any of this stuff, the kind of Buddhism stuff. They all talk about practicing detachment. I think it was, Siddhartha Buddha that coined the term. Detachment is the root of all suffering. Very true. How can you practice detachment? What are we detaching from here? Well, we're detaching from the idea that you own anything or anything's permanent. And there's lots of ways you can do that. I always think that your job in this world should be about like character development, your own internal character, character development. What is it about? This is about nothing's ever permanent, right? So the idea that, even if you have a good day, that's not permanent. Next minute you can have a bad day. If you have a bad day, that's not permanent. Next minute you can have a good day. So knowing that even if you are having a shit time right now, take comfort in the fact that even that's not permanent, even your tragic times. But yeah, when I talk about character development, we want to develop our character, our mental state, our kind of capacity to become more resilient to this concept that nothing's ever permanent, that you can always, even the bad times are not permanent. So you develop your characters to the point that you become more resilient to it, right? And then the second part of developing your character is you want to become more emotionally strong, so that you can better manage your state through the good and bad times. It's almost like, when you get like a stroke of really good luck. Let's just say you win a massive project, you come into money. If that's the first time you've ever come into money, have you ever seen these people? I've got some in my family, and even I've been subjected to this, because I came from nothing, grew up totally poor. When you first start earning money, it can go to your head, you know what I mean? You can go on these like mad spending sprees and just piss it up the wall. And this is where you need to develop your character, so that you don't be subjected to, is it Pareto's law? Where I think the idea being that, you will always default back to your current position. So if you're not used to earning money, and then all of a sudden you earn a shit ton of money, if you go on a complete bender, you always see these people, don't you, like who win the lottery, and then 18 months later they're back skint again. Well, that's Pareto's law, whereas what they should be doing is developing the character to be someone that can kind of handle that money and all that kind of thing. And it's the same with relationships, knowing that things come and go. That money will come and go. But if you develop your character and your abilities so that you're emotionally strong, and you can kind of, when you win money, not let it affect your mental state, but when you lose money, same, not let it affect your mental state, you'll kind of better manage that equilibrium, so that you maintain almost like the only thing that you can maintain permanence, and even this you can't maintain, is your ability to withstand the ebbs and flows of life. So I think you should be trying to, life is a constant struggle of improvement. You cannot stop. This is why, the whole self-improvement thing is just a never-ending cycle. You can't stop training at the gym if you want to maintain in shape. You don't get to a level and then stop. You've got to keep going. You can't, lose all that weight and then stop your diet and just flip. No, it is a constant, the work never stops. So that character development thing is super important. And that's why, the better you become at it, the more resilient you become at it, to pushing through the challenges of life. And also, it's like when I do my meditation with Roberto, and he talks about like spiritual enlightenment. The more conscious you get, he said it actually gets harder. The journey gets harder. You just become more resilient to tolerating it. And I think that's the same with like anything like fitness or whatever. The fitness goals, if you reach a certain level, let's say you're going for like, get shredded or whatever, get to a certain body fat percentage, it gets harder as you move up the ranks, or a professional athlete of some form. It doesn't get easier, you just become better at it. So your job, character development mentally first, to be able to withstand it and have the resilience. But then you're trying to improve your skills, it's like, when I go on, I've got the life harmony model there, that's in the journal. I don't know if you've seen this, but you can download it from the website. The idea being is these are what I come up with, 7 areas of life. They're from, general personal development areas of life. What we got: financial, occupation, lifestyle, physical, mindset, spirituality, and relationships. You can mark yourself off there from 0 to 100% where you think you are. And the idea is it's like a radar chart. You're trying to grow this shape to become better and be more realistic. But unless you maintain that shape can shrink. You can get worse. You know what I mean? Your level of development, say, in your financial or occupation, can shrink back if you stop performing at work. So if you're in like a sales job, and you stop hitting your numbers and you depend on that salary, that can fall back, you know what I mean? So nothing's permanent, not even your current skills and state. And that's why I think that, your job should be character development, so that you can withstand all these ebbs and flows and just become better and better and better through time, withstanding and becoming more resilient to the ups and downs of life, and make it easier for you to handle. So like what you'll find, if you've ever, whether it's in your career or in business, there's always many failures, when you think about your earlier journey. How is it today that you're better at handling the ups and downs? Well, it's through experience, isn't it? You know what I mean? The first time you go broke or whatever, a lot of wealthy people or successful people have been broke many times. They just don't go broke as much anymore because they end up with the mindset to, they've developed the mental capacity to become more resilient to it, and the skills are better. So that kind of character development and skills development is consistent. You cannot stop. This is why I journal about it every day. I'm always working on my goals and that kind of thing and what I talk about. Even if you're going through tough times, like I've had some pretty tough moments financially in my life, really tough moments, followed by some really easy moments, you know what I mean? And then it will drop back, and then, so you've got to become better at this so that you never, your lowest lows are never as bad as they were in the past, but you can't stop the kind of fluctuations. So I've got some things that I was just reading. The first one is, I've talked about these before. It's just from a reading list. One of my books on the reading list. I did a video, the 40 lessons from 40 books. Just have a look on my channel, where I feature all these books. And this is one of them. It's also on my reading list. If there's a link down below, you can go to probably my reading list on my website. This one's Deepak Chopra, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And number 6, law 6, is the law of detachment. Let's have a little look at this. In detachment lies the wisdom of uncertainty. Very true. Nothing's ever permanent. In the wisdom of uncertainty lies the freedom from our own past, from the known, and from the prison of past conditioning. Wow. And in the willingness to step into the unknown, the field of all possibilities, we surrender ourselves to the creative mind that orchestrates the dance of the universe, right? So understanding that everything's flowing. Listen to this. I've underlined a few lines here, right? One characteristic of the field of all possibilities is infinite correlation. This field can orchestrate an infinity of space-time events to bring us out of to bring the outcome that is intended. This is the important point. But when you're attached, your intention gets locked into a rigid mindset, and you lose the fluidity, the creativity, and the spontaneity inherent in the field. When you get attached, you freeze your desire from that infinite fluidity and flexibility into a rigid framework that interferes with the whole process of creation. So if you think time never stops, so the world, the universe, it's always moving, everything's fluid, right? Just think about it, that every person we meet in our lives, get this in your head, well, you know it, every person that we meet in our lives, we have a last day with them. We don't know when that's going to be. We can sometimes get an idea roughly if someone's like ill health or something like this. But just knowing that everyone has a last day with you, right? And everything has a last day with you. Everything that you see, even ourselves, we're not getting super nerdy now, but apparently every single cell in our body is renewed over about a 7-year period. So we're even not the same thing, So understand that, it says here, when you get attached, you freeze your desire from the infinite fluidity that the world is, and flexibility into a rigid framework that interferes with the whole process of creation. So you trying to hold on to that current state when the world is moving, time is moving, you're actually creating a lot of friction there, aren't you? Because you kind of hold on to the past that's sort of like way behind you. The law of detachment does not interfere with the law of intention and desire. There are two other laws. With goal setting, this is pretty cool. You have the intention of going in a certain direction. You still have a goal. However, between point A and point B, there are infinite possibilities. With uncertainty factored in, you might change direction in any moment if you feel a higher ideal, or if you find something more exciting. This is quite important, right? It's like, I think I spoke about this before in the book, Maxwell Maltz book, Psycho-Cybernetics, which is also in the video 40 Lessons in 40 Books. That book, Psycho-Cybernetics, probably one of the best books I've ever read. It's absolutely phenomenal. And the idea being is like, you create goals, like I'm, doing it in the journal for goal achievement, creating my goals and all that kind of thing, working towards them. But your goal, right, your highest level, right, is that better? Apologies, see this? Battery's gone. So if the audio's gone, I was just saying, when you set off in, I need to charge it. When you set off in business, or in career, you never end up quite where you thought you would end up. And the idea being is that you need to be able to pivot. So you create your identity or your goal, you stick it on the horizon. It's a target to aim at, as Maxwell Maltz says in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And then you aim at it, right? But you're constantly course correcting along the way, right? And this is, like it says in here, when it talks about the infinite possibilities and the fluidity of the universe, you've got to allow for every single eventuality. So just this section here. However, between, when the law of detachment does not interfere with the law of intention and desire with goal setting, you still have the intention of going in a certain direction. You still have a goal. However, between point A and point B, there are infinite possibilities. With uncertainty factored in, you might change direction in any moment if you feel a higher ideal or if you find something more exciting. So this is the point. Sometimes it's like the concept of minimum viable product or just getting started. I think always better to get started, but allow yourself to pivot. This is particularly important. If you have too much a rigid attachment to a particular outcome, you've built a constraint there, and then you're not allowing, like what happens if you can't get in that direction? You need to allow yourself to pivot slightly, and this is how good business works. You're getting constant feedback from the market, from your customers and things like this. And it's the same in relationships. I mean, there's a great concept, I wrote it down here, like a good way to practice detachment, right, is to love someone without possession when it comes to relationships, or love an outcome without possession, knowing that it's never permanent, right? You could apply that to anything, right? If you reach a certain state in a skill, or if you're whatever that might be, like in a martial art or in a I did an interview with John Frankel, and he said, he's talking about like Hicks and Gracie, you know, and he was saying that even people like that are at the top, or like a you know, a top fighter in the world, there's a constant cycle. You know, they're at the top for only a period of time, and it's like a cycle, and then all of a sudden, maybe a decade, and then eventually you know, they get older and they fall down, and that's like it with everything, knowing that nothing's ever permanent. So love him without attachment. Take note. Han, love the other person so the other person feels free. Don't want to get into relationships here, but great philosophy. If you can train your mind to do this, is if you're going on a meeting someone, like a date, just go on that date and enjoy that moment, right? And treat it like an individual moment. It may be the last time, but that's okay. Just enjoy it for that moment. And you could treat that about everything, you know, your career, your fitness, your health. All we can do is keep working at it. So think about your health. What can you do there? You enjoy your health. Be grateful of it. The way to remain healthy: keep eating that whole foods diet. Keep watching your calories. All the rest of it, high protein. I would lower lower the processed carbs and all that stuff. Actually work at it each day, remembering that nothing's permanent. You know, it is a constant effort. Anyway, not much to talk about. I did have another book, but I don't think there's much in it. What's the message here? Nothing's ever permanent. The work doesn't stop. We've got to keep going every day, working towards our goals, pivoting, and just become, remember that character development. You want to become mentally strong, more resilient to the ups and downs of life, and building your skills so you can better cope with various different situations. So that, you know, imagine like a wave, and you know, you're constantly getting better, but your fluctuations are massive at the start, and then you want to tighten it up, don't you? You're still allowing some ups and downs, but you know, the way you handle the ups and downs is a lot tighter, and you know, your downs are never as bad as they were. Yes, you can come into money, then all of a sudden just be fucking bankrupt out of nowhere. But as long as you've got the ability to bounce back, character development, skills development, keep working on your goals. All right, I am going to go and charge my microphones because probably the audio's a bit shit just talking straight to the phone. All righty, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Go and watch my video on the 40 lessons from 40 books. It's in my library. All right, thank you very much. See you all next time.